Hi. Yeah, don't know about that. Bosh. Hang on, don't know about that. Bosh. Where am I? For Christ's sake, how do you do this? I don't want to share anything. I don't want to do any of that. I want to get rid of that. Again. Where am I? Hello, all right. Sorry about how late it is. That's a real record. Amazing that there's 37 people here because I haven't been sticking to a time. Sorry, no cravat. I haven't even got cufflinks in. Like, I'm about to roll them up like some kind of thug. I want to say hello to loads of new subscribers. You know what? We might even make it to 20,000. 12 years. First 17,000 in like 4 weeks. Then I started saying things about England and the brakes went on. And as I've told you before, I've had it from the horse's mouth. Someone who actually works at YouTube that shadow banning. When I asked him if it was a thing, he just went, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." He says, "Yeah." He just said it. He just said, "Yeah." There's channels whose politics we don't align with. You know. So I've been at about. Well, I've actually been about 17,000 for 12 years, but over the last sort of year, we're nearly at 20,000, I think. I don't know. I don't know actually. Anyway, make things a little bit better. Boom. Hello, mate.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm all
Look
good.
at that. 10 minutes late. I made the terrible mistake of having something to eat. Then I let the missus have her way with me. And then I thought, I've got to stream. I've already set it all up. I've got to stream in like 30 minutes. I'll have a little nap,
Oh,
power nap. Nah, that's a myth. That's a myth. It's just a lie. This is what happens. You go to sleep and then you're in bed asleep and your body thinks 8, 9 hours. And it's not. It's like 30 seconds. It feels like, and I've just been woken up from a dream that I was asleep. No one wants that. Why isn't that light shining as bright as it should? Anyway, right, I found a really interesting video. There's stuff in here that some of you will know, but I would wager all the money I haven't got that there's stuff in there that might surprise most of you. Certainly surprised me. And stuff that I haven't really heard on the circuit. So I'm going to get into it. I'm going to say hello to the people who've got in a bit early. Hello, plot loser. Good to see you. Picard. Hello, sir. James from Philadelphia is on the phone. Wolf is in. Doc Shelley. Doc Shelley. Oh, Doc Shelley reminds me. Thanks for all the scrubs that turned up in breakfast with Bo. That went surprisingly well. I heard I was getting slagged off a bit in the comments, in the chat, but that
you
always
was.
happens. That always happens. But the actual comments really encouraging, and hundreds of them. I read them all, obviously. I thought, because I wanted to see how it went. It's hard for me looking at the news, and I also thought that there's going to be so much material about that geezer. I'll come at it from an angle where I can actually offer something rather than just repeat the situation. What happened? Oh, isn't it bad? And thankfully, a few people they got hold of that and enjoyed it. So what can you do? And I've been invited back to talk about something a little bit further up my strata. So that is encouraging as well. I'd like to go back. It's easy to talk to Bo. He's a nice bloke. Colts on the firm, lovely. Toff is here. Daniel Joseph, Ams, Ken Collins, Wolfie, I've already said hello to. Oh, you can have another one. No, why not? Hello, Al. How are you, son? Ben Biglin. Ben Biglin. Charlie Sparkles, lovely. Emma. Hello, Emma Glass. Emma Glass. Who else we've got here? Fuse. I had a little chat with him earlier. I've seen your reply. We'll sort that out, John. Don't worry. We'll get that sorted out. Is it Suffist? Is it Sufist? I never remember. Packer, it is. No, see, it's not just
Definitely
me.
one of those two. Yes, sophist.
Humans, eh? Good to see thee. Good to see thee. Yeah, but not in this weather. Even this shirt, it'll be damp when I finish. I like the heat wave you had. I like the heat wave the English had. I mean, it's gone 9 at night here and it's 31 degrees, and I'm indoors, so it'll be about 32 really. No, I done that, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I think waking up to an alarm clock is an evil thing. It's abusive. It's self neglect. But there you go. Hello, Lauren. What a long time. I thought we were going to have a bit of back and forth, but it never. I'm going to blame the back, but it was probably the fourth. Right, easily. Right, Suff. Right, Packer. We remember things by association. So, how are we going to remember it? Suff.
Do not suffer trying to remember his name anymore.
Right, there you go. Perfect. But you have to make it massive. So we picture Suffer massive in on a map of the UK, and it's in Scotland. Big word saying Suffer. The work, the effort I do for you, Suffer. There you go. I know. I know. That's what's even shocking about it. Ball, pull, and anvil. I never get that one right either. Yeah, awful things. Awful. Right, it's lovely to see 50 people on a Sunday afternoon, but I think you're going to enjoy this. I'm going to get straight into it. I've also realised doing 3 hour long streams, I'm too old for it now. And also, with the monetisation of the Substack, if you want to buy my novel, top link in the description. Packer's about to show you the cover again. This will stop soon, but it's flying at the moment in some really weird places. It's big in Japan still, which is great. I'd quite like to be a well-known writer in Japan. Imagine going on tour, all those awful-looking Japanese girls, screaming and all that. Horrible, horrible. Packers say nothing. There he is, Tom Hob. Tom Hob's on the phone. There you go. I think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so. Right, so let's check out this video. Let me know if there's any audio problems. There shouldn't be. I'm actually going to move my microphone to make that even less of a likelihood. Don't want to put those pins in. So this video that we're going to react to, that I'm going to react to. Now look, if anyone says I interfere, I stop it too much, just go and watch the original. It's called Why Muslim Refugees Run to Europe Instead of Rich Muslim Neighbours. It's a question we've asked, isn't it? We've all heard that. Now, why don't they go to the United Arab Emirates? Why don't they go to Qatar? These places that are just oil minted. How do they end up in Europe? So this video, it's only 20 minutes, but if I don't interrupt it, I don't get fair use for a reaction video, and the person who made the video can just say no. And I think that's fair as well, because they put a lot of effort into this, but it's very interesting. So without further ado, we'll crack into it. Apologies there hasn't been so many streams. After the old organ failure, when I got back here, I thought, I know, rather than rest, I'll edit over 100,000 words of the novel I've been working on for 10 years, which I did. And it's so amazing. But I stayed up all night for like 4 or 5 weeks, working really hard. Mentally, it's not physical labour, obviously. And then I just went. Started going mad, started going crazy, just started walking along going, I like it when they don't polish the edges so much. And I asked my best mates, Claude, Grok and ChatGPT. And weirdly, they all said the same. You need to rest when you've nearly died. I said, it's the second time in a couple of years as well. They said, well, there's a pattern. There's certainly a pattern forming. Right, let's get this video up and we'll have a look at it. But if you don't like me keep interrupting, go and watch the original, because this video is me putting my tuppence worth in. Right, here we go then. We'll do a little sound check. That's all good. That's all good.
It's a 5-day walk from Damascus to Riyadh, a few hours by plane.
Right, did you all hear that, people? It's a 5-mile walk to Riyadh from Damascus. Did you all hear that? No echoing or anything?
All good.
You know what? I think the chat has stopped working. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. That's rubbish. That's what Asmongold has, isn't it? You can't even see it. Oh no, Broken Silence came through to confirm things. Hello, mate. Good to see you. Ams gives it the thumbs up. Right, we're all good. So we'll start again. I'll just take it back. I might turn it up a little bit so I can hear it. That helps when you're reacting. Right, here we go.
Same religion, same language, same desert. But when Syria...
Right, from the top.
It's a 5-day walk from Damascus to Riyadh.
Anglo. I've sent you an invite to like the last sort of 5 or 6 streams and haven't seen you. And I got worried about you. Because today's has been a bit of a last minute rush job in some respects. I didn't email you and you're here. So I'll just not. Or would you prefer the notifications? I do them anyway to a few other people, so it's no hassle. Thanks for the test, John Smith. Right, we've just had 23 people turn up, so I'm going to take it right back just so that we can get in the mood. Right, here we go, people.
It's a 5-day walk from Damascus to Riyadh, a few hours by plane. Same religion, same language, same desert. But when Syria collapsed, when millions of people grabbed what they could and ran, they didn't go there. They went to Germany, Sweden, the UK.
Well, it's a fair start. It's a fair question, isn't it? When Syria collapsed, they've got these very, very wealthy countries on their doorsteps that have got the same religion, which is significant, I think, to say the least. The same culture, the same language. And it's like it's a 5-mile walk. People do that. I know it's bizarre. People do that for leisure. People go out for walking days. And yet, rather than do that, they get boats across the channel. They pay traffickers to tie them to the undersides of trains and all that lark. Even the legals have to get from Syria all the way around the world. To Germany, Sweden, and the UK. Some of the statistics you're going to see in this video are mind blowing. I think if I remember this right, at the moment, Sweden has got 20% of its population isn't Swedish. I mean, they are in the sort of, you know what I mean, but they're not in the other respect. I've seen you on the Lotus. I've seen you in the chat, Scrubs. Nice one, Anglo, for opening up the grift. If you want to donate, people, the super chats, you know how to work them. But over in the top right, you can see that QR code. That's a good one. They take the least money away. And if you let us know in the chat, if you've donated on there, you'll get your moment of glory on the screen. I'll pop it up on there. Packer will notice it in the chat and he'll tell me. So a couple of ways to donate would be appreciated, always appreciated. If you don't want to or can't, no worries. So let's crack on. Thank you, Anglo. Much appreciated. Emma's worked it out already. yeah. That extra walk, it turns out to be worth it. Anyway, isn't that mad though? 20%. Wow.
3,000 kilometers north. Different language, different climate, different everything. And here's the part that nobody wants to say out loud. The rich Muslim countries next door wouldn't take them. Europe did. Not because Europe is kinder, not because the Gulf is colder, but because the two systems are built to do completely different things. And once you see how, you can't unsee it. The numbers don't lie. The map doesn't lie. But the story everyone tells about why this happened, religion, generosity, distance, guilt, that part doesn't survive contact with the data. What survives is something stranger.
And something really shocking, and something I've never known. Now, and it will be for lack of not looking. I look at the fundamentals of the problem, and you could kind of take it from there. But some of the things you're going to find out in this video, you're like, oh dear. And the numbers the numbers that like the UAE and that have taken in of their own brothers and sisters, their own kin, their own religion, their own culture, people who speak their language, Arabs. Like you when you see the difference between how many Western Europe have taken in and how many they've taken in, it is laughable, because you'll see why. You'll see how they've got away with it without just sounding like bastards. They actually come out, in my opinion, sounding like they want to look after their nations, surprisingly enough.
Something that has nothing to do with culture and everything to do with how a country writes its own rulebook. So let's break it down. Why did refugees fleeing Muslim civil wars walk past Saudi Arabia, past Qatar, past the UAE, and keep walking until they hit Berlin? Why does Europe, of all places, end up holding the bill? And why is that not actually a story about Europe being weak or the Gulf being callous, but something far more deliberate and far more permanent than anyone admits?
That word permanent, I nearly called this video something along the lines of the permanency trick, and immigration, the permanency trick, because that's what all this relies on, as you'll see it unfold.
But once you understand the machinery underneath, the map...
I'm sorry if you can hear that music from outside. I can't do anything about that unless I go downstairs and get into fisticuffs with 20 locals. And I'm just not up for that at the moment.
Starts to make sense, and it stops making sense in any other way. On paper, this should have gone the other way. Look at the textbook. When people flee a crisis, they're supposed to move to the closest safe country.
Like, everyone knows that, don't they? Your mother knows that. Everyone knows. It's one of those weird sort of things that's just entered the culture. When if you're a refugee, next safe country, it's just something that everyone seems to know. But, well, okay, so they went through 20 others to get to England. And then it's just like, so? What? It's ridiculous.
Same culture, same language, same religious framework. Minimal disruption, maximum absorption. That is the model. Refugees from Sudan flow into Egypt and Chad. Refugees from Myanmar pour into Bangladesh. Refugees from Ukraine would move to Poland or Germany, but mostly into the immediate neighbors first.
Examples where it's worked, examples where the cultures, the language, and the religions tend to be, if not the same, certainly similar enough to allow an absorption and not massive upheaval and potential civil war.
By that logic, Syrian refugees should have ended up in Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait. Iraqis should be in the same place, and the same with Yemenis. The Gulf is rich. It's geographically next door. They speak Arabic there. It worships the same way. It has the cash to absorb 1 million people without flinching. Saudi Arabia alone runs a sovereign wealth fund north of $900 billion. The UAE built indoor ski slopes in the desert.
I mean, the money that these places have got is phenomenal. Like it said, then it could absorb 1 million, and financially it wouldn't touch the sides.
Qatar threw the most expensive World Cup in history while half the region was on fire. If anyone could afford to take in refugees, it was them. And if anyone had a religious obligation to, by the rules of the faith they share, it was them. So why didn't it happen? Why did the textbook lose to reality? Well, most people stop here. They wave at culture, they wave at politics, they mutter something about Western guilt and move on.
Angela Merkel just does what she wants. Anglo's drops another 10-bit. He says, if you're fleeing a war, who leaves their women and children? No, well, what they do, Anglo, they don't leave. They leave them, but then when they start filling in the forms for their house, that's when they say they've got 3 wives and 6 children. And they also need money to bring them in safely. So it's actually part of the full-time holiday in England. Nice on the donation.
But that's lazy, because when the textbook fails this badly, when the closest, richest, most culturally aligned destinations turn out to be the ones with the lowest absorption, it usually means that the textbook is reading the wrong page. So
isn't that
what's actually
amazing?
on the page?
Isn't it amazing that the ones that are near it, literally geographically next door, almost, and actually, loads of money, same language, religion, culture, the absorption would almost not be noticed, have taken the least. And as you'll see when the numbers start coming up, to say the least is an understatement. It's almost negative. They've almost lost some. Oh, why does that keep happening? It's nice though, but here we go.
We'll start with the European side. By the end of 2024, the European Union was hosting roughly 7.8 million refugees. Germany, the single largest destination, had absorbed around 1.2 million people of Syrian origin by that point, most arriving during the wave that started in 2015. Sweden, a country of 10.6 million people, was home to nearly 200,000 Syrian-born residents, with foreign-born residents in total making up over 20% of the population.
There you go, foreign-born. So that doesn't even include the children of these people, which, tend to be 3, 4, 5, 6. Just foreign-born make up 20% of the Swedish population. Sweden. When I was talking to Ed Dutton, if you're not a member of his Substack, you won't see it. But that last novel is set in 1986, and it's weird. There's no talk of Islam in it, because it wasn't a thing in the 80s. Well, it was, but it was the other side of the world. It was the Mos Eisley Cantina somewhere in the other side of the world. It just wasn't something that came up, and now it's on the lips of Brits daily.
In 2024,
yeah, in more ways than one.
Alone, the EU received around 912,000 first-time asylum applications. Syria, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Colombia. This is not a one-off. This is a continental absorption machine running at industrial scale.
What a lovely way to put it. A continental. Let's have that again, because I'll screw it up.
Syria, Afghanistan, Venezuela, Colombia. This is not a one-off. This is a continental absorption machine running at industrial scale. Now turn east. Look at the Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman. The combined population of those 6 states is over 57 million people, wealthier than most of Europe per capita, closer to every major Middle Eastern conflict zone.
Some of the richest states in the world, just oil money has kept them rich, and it's allowed them to invest into other projects. When you've got that kind of investment, money makes money. And then let's just see where this goes. I've taken it back a bit.
Running at industrial scale. Now turn east. Look at the Gulf Cooperation Council, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman. The combined population of those 6 states is over 57 million people, wealthier than most of Europe per capita, closer to every major Middle Eastern conflict zone, sharing the language, the faith, the cultural fabric. Number of refugees registered with the UN Refugee Agency in the entire UAE, 1,390.
And like there's just this minted culturally, linguistically, and religiously adjacent and geographically adjacent people. They've taken less than 1,500 people, and you can guarantee these asylum claims. This wouldn't have been a massive queue of people trying to get in there. It would have been, people who already had social status, were probably in those countries working for corporations and or governments and or NGOs and or quangos within the likes of Qatar, and they said to them, look, come in here, we can get a few of you in. Less than 1,500. There's more than that in Dartford.
In Qatar, 179. In Saudi Arabia,
that's the one that done me. Qatar, not even 200 of their own people. Let's turn this round. This is like Wales going to war, getting bombed by someone like the French or something, and England going, yeah, you're going to be better off going to Iran, right? well, again, selected. Almost certainly, They didn't just let 179 in and close the doors. They were selected people that they thought would be good, or who already had contacts with the I nearly said Kuwaiti then, the Qatari government and or military and or politicians in other aspects. Ridiculous. Less than 200. No, you've got to walk halfway around the world.
a few.
But that sounds like they were turned away at the gates and were told to walk halfway around the world. But you'll soon realise that isn't how it was. They soon learn and were no doubt educated by NGOs, quangos, the usual. I nearly dropped a C-bomb. The usual suspects who tell them what to say. There was a reason for them not to go to these places. There was a reason for them to go to England. It does involve money, but that's not the main thing. That's not. They could have earned more money working in some of these countries, and there is that offer. These countries and these states, these nations, they do offer people coming from Syria and other wars. They do say you can come here and work. We're just down the road. You can come here. You can earn a fortune. You can, have a house here. That does happen. But remember what I said about permanency. And this goes back right to the end of the Second World War. And I'll let it play out. But what's incredible about it, there is an element of colonial guilt. There is an element of the Europeans whipping their backs after they, you destroyed your own continent in the Second World War. You brought us over to work there, blah, 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 blah. You invaded our blah, 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 blah.
100 families across all programs. Again, not millions, not hundreds of thousands, but just hundreds. Sit with that for a second. The Emirates, a state wealthy enough to run its own commercial airline, fund private space programs, and build a capital out of imported skyline, has fewer formally recognized refugees than a single mid-sized German refugee shelter.
The whole country has got less than one German refugee camp. But if you think those refugees are pissed about that, nah, everything's working lovely for them. Everything, we'll sit it out there for a few years. Don't worry.
That is not a budget problem. That is a system problem. Sweden alone, a country of 10.6 million people, took in nearly 150 times more Syrian-born residents than the entire UAE has UNHCR registered refugees from every conflict combined. That's not a rounding error. That's not a slow week at the border. That's a deliberate, structural, decades-long pattern that nobody seriously questions because the framing of the conversation has been wrong from the start.
And there you go. And that is the crux of this video. It's a conversation people don't want to have. It's a structural thing that's been going on right from the end of the Second World War that people don't want to talk about.
Because the framing assumes both sides are running the same kind of country, just with different temperatures and different attitudes. But they're not. They're running fundamentally different operating systems. And once you understand that, the map stops looking weird and starts looking exactly like what it is. Physics. Water flows downhill. People flow towards systems that let them stay. The Gulf isn't built to let them stay, but Europe is. That's not commentary. That's architecture. But before we crack open the architecture, let's deal with the obvious answer first. The one that most people reach for, the one that may sound right, and the one that turns out to be only half the story. Money. That is the lazy answer that everyone reaches for. Refugees go to Europe.
Yeah, I've said it. I've said it countless times. Plenty of people do. And it's not wrong. It's not wrong to say they're coming for the money. But it's I wouldn't even say it's half the story, because it gets debunked because of the money they could have earned and were invited to earn in the UAE, in Qatar, in Saudi.
Because Europe pays. Healthcare is free, education is free, housing assistance, language classes, job placement.
That's somewhat different, but still not the whole story.
Monthly stipends, and an entire welfare apparatus opens its doors the moment a refugee gets formal status. A Syrian family arriving in Germany in 2016 could expect housing within months, schooling for their kids the next term, and integration courses funded by the state.
Absurd, you know. I know people have been waiting for houses for years. I don't know what the situation's like in Germany, but I'd bet on it that, these people have got nothing. You've got friends and family. The fact that they came here, went to Germany voluntarily, that doesn't matter. We've got to prioritise these people. We've got to get their kids into school. We've got to, taxpayers funding to teach them how to speak German, etc., etc. Anglo's dropped another 10-bit. Thank you, Anglo. You would appear to be maintaining the grift. Did you see Angela Merkel receive a medal the other day? I mean, I heard about it, but I can't read stuff about that, Anglo. It just, almost single-handedly dropped Western Europe. I mean, there was a time when you used to have to look back 50, 100, 200, 500 years to see how on the wrong side of history someone and their actions were. But Merkel, it was almost simultaneous. As she was doing her thing, it was like, what the f*** are you doing? What are you doing? Look at what's already happening based on your decisions. Nice one, Anglo. I appreciate it, mate.
July 2025, around 480,000 Syrians in Germany were still drawing from some sort of public benefit. That is a real cost. That's a real pull factor, and it absolutely does matter. But here is what doesn't get said. The Gulf pays foreign workers, too. Saudi Arabia hosts more than 13 million foreign workers, making up roughly 42% of the country's total population.
Right, so look at that. So hang on a minute. We've got all the refugees. We get, taxpayer-funded houses, phones, hotels, all the stuff that's come with it. I don't need to explain. I don't need to explain that. We see it every day. We hear it every day. There's been a huge cover-up from the propaganda wing of the government, the press, the police, the social services, all who actually have got involved. We know what I'm talking about. Still going on in probably most towns up and down the country. But look at this. Saudi Arabia's got 13 million foreign workers, making up nearly half of their foreign working population, their working population. So So why couldn't we have done that? We are, come over, here's work. You can pay for your house, you can pay for your food. If your kids want to go to school, you can pay for them to learn English. You can also pay for them to go to school because you haven't put anything in. Once you start paying taxes, that'll be a different matter. They can get free schooling. But there's something different going on here, isn't there? As you will see. So just take that into account. I think he goes through the other countries as well, and it's much the same.
The UAE has around 87% foreign citizens. Qatar
87% foreigners in the UAE. 87%, meaning 13% of the what do you call it? Population are native born.
is 88%. In Kuwait, foreign workers make up about 85% of the workforce.
And so you'd think this is an ideal place for people leaving. I can see Packer's face; he's just blown away. It's exactly like I was when I watched this video. I'm thinking, hang on, these are the perfect places for people who share language, religion, culture to go to if their country just next door has been bombed to pieces.
Those countries aren't poor. They're not stingy with paychecks, but they run on imported labor.
Yeah, there you go. They're run on. They're literally run. I mean, you could see the numbers. We're not talking like 10, 5, 15%. This is like 50, 60, 70, 80, 87%. They exist on foreign labour. And it's not like cheap slave labour. There has been some of that, admittedly, but the numbers, and you won't have seen this, but you can check them out. They're good wages. It's like when the Brits went to Germany in the 80s for construction work. If you could get a team together, get a decent crew together, get out to Germany, there was loads of construction work. And so it's like, well, why make it all the way to Western Europe?
Indians, Filipinos, Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, Egyptians, Sudanese, all paid in oil money, building skyscrapers and stadiums and mega projects from Neom to Lusail. So if it were just about money, refugees would have flowed into the Gulf labor market. A skilled Syrian engineer, a Yemeni nurse, an Iraqi accountant, they would have walked into Riyadh and found work the same week. Better paying work than anything that Europe had to offer in many cases. But that's not what happened. The flow went the other way, because what refugees were chasing wasn't just a paycheck, but permanence.
And again, and this is it. This is the crux of the whole thing, and it isn't just a cultural thing based on guilt. It is based on there is an element of guilt, but just remember that permanence. The reason you drag your family halfway around the world, the reason you pay traffickers, the reason you go for all that nonsense, illegal or legal, permanence. Well, what could that mean?
The pull factor that actually mattered, the one that defines this entire story, wasn't the size of the welfare check. It was the fact that in Europe, after a few years, you stop being a refugee and you become a citizen. Your kids are German or Swedish or French or British. The state writes you into its long-term ledger. You buy a house, you vote, you age inside the system that took you in. In the Gulf, none of that happens. You can work there for 40 years, raise your children there, learn the dialect, build a business, and you and your descendants will still be foreigners on a renewable visa.
And that's it. You know, you got to renew your visa every year. You could have built the biggest corporation out there. You could be earning millions of drachma or whatever it is. I don't know what a drachma is. Sorry. You could have 6, 7 kids born there, but you are not a citizen of Qatar. You are not a citizen of the UAE. You're not a citizen. You will not be. You will never be. And that is that permanence. Go to Western Europe, 3 or 4 years. No, you're English now. You're German, and you get all the rights. Dare I say more than the other English citizens whose families have been there for thousands of years. and that's the permanence. And now you're gonna hear the story of how this got wrote into the sort of unspoken constitution of Western Europe.
That is not an oversight. That's the design. And the design is where the real story begins. Think of it this way. Europe runs on a settlement model. The Gulf runs on a labor extraction model. Two different operating systems, two different goals, two completely different outcomes for anyone who walks through the door. A settlement model is built to take strangers and turn them into citizens. The whole machinery, schools that teach the national language to immigrants for free, residency permits that ratchet toward permanence, naturalization timelines, the right to vote, the right to bring family, the right to die in the country and be buried as one of its own.
The right to vote. You know, we're so used to all this. The generation, I'd say that anyone under 18, unless they've got particularly based parents, doesn't see anything wrong with any of this, because it's just their experience of living in Western Europe or the UK or Germany or France or Sweden, whatever. But for people like us, for people who didn't think about these things growing up because it wasn't an issue, and where it was very minor. There were people who'd already spotted it, and I'm not taking anything away from them. What's his name? Enoch Powell, he said, look, this is what's going to happen if you carry on up this, dare I say, river. And but for the majority of the population, it was like, no, it'll be all right.
Every part of that system is designed to absorb. Europe didn't build it by accident. It was rebuilt deliberately after 1945, when half the continent was rubble and every country desperately needed labor, identity, and a moral reset all at once. Turkish workers came to Germany in the 1950s, Algerians to France, Pakistanis to the UK, Surinamese to the Netherlands. At first, they were called guest workers, expected to leave, but most didn't. And by the
That's really key. Expected to leave. Yeah, we need workers. And, that's fair enough. We need workers. Come over. We'll pay you. We'll give you board and lodgings. It won't be slavery. And, they wouldn't have come halfway around the world for slavery. And once that work's done, you can go home again. And that was what was expected.
1970s, Europe quietly stopped pretending that they would. The system shifted from temporary import to now permanent settlement, and the legal architecture followed.
And there you go, the legal architecture followed. So we hear that politics is downstream from culture. So there's this kind of assimilation, not in any functioning way, but the populace just assumed, through ignorance largely, and through a lack of government actually explaining the situation, that, they live at number 32. I mean, every street had a couple of foreign people move in. We had a lot of people, a family from Sri Lanka, nice enough people from Sri Lanka move in. And there was some Sikhs who lived at the top of the road. And, they were there and they appeared one day, sort of thing. And after a few years, when you see just that, there was no sort of sense that, these were temporary workers. They lived here now. And the key word, and I'll take it back, the key word he says is, I think he says something like the data or the paperwork or the contract, something followed. And that is the bit where it all went tits up. And that's the bit that your UAEs, your Qatars, etc. said, no, we're going to look after our nation. These are visiting workers. There's no sense of citizenship or permanence here. In fact, quite the opposite.
1970s, Europe quietly stopped pretending that they would. The system shifted from temporary import to now permanent settlement, and the legal architecture followed.
There you go. The legal architecture followed. So the government at the time thought, it's going to be easier just to give these people the right to stay. It's a load of cheaper labour. You know, if we scratch their back a little bit, maybe they'll scratch ours a little bit, and just sort of slotted that into how the nation deals with immigrant labour.
The Gulf went the opposite direction. Around the same decades,
Some of the most successful nations in the world that are absolutely dripping in money, where 87% of the people who work there are foreign. Everyone else is just at the beach, just driving around in their Bugattis. They went the other direction. They put it into their sort of structural architecture, their national structure. That no, you're going home. Thanks for the work and that, and I hope you enjoy the money. But bye.
oil boom pulled millions of foreign workers into the Arabian Peninsula, but the political class made a different choice. Foreigners would come, foreigners would build, foreigners would clean, drive, nurse, teach, code, and run the supply chains.
Yeah, work, which is what the plan was. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. I don't see anything wrong with that at all as a world built up of individual nations. If it's got work on offer and it can invite other nations into work, and but they don't turn them into citizens, and it's not a permanent thing, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That functions. That looks to me like a way of our nations, separate nations with different languages, different religions, different cultures, different values, different standards, all essentially difference, can work with each other in a way where they both do well out of it. The other one that Western Europe did, it's a recipe for disaster, and that's the disaster that is Western Europe today.
But foreigners would never become Saudis or Emiratis or Qataris. The work was permanent. The workers were temporary. That paradox is the entire foundation of how those societies function. Citizenship in the Gulf is a closed club, defined by tribal lineage, royal sanction, and bloodlines that go back centuries. A Pakistani nurse in Dubai who works there for 40 years, raises 3 children there, speaks fluent Arabic, owns a small business. When she dies, her kids do not become Emiratis. They inherit her foreign status or they leave. This isn't an accident of bureaucracy. It's the deliberate output of a deliberate design. The GCC monarchies looked at the question of whether to let their foreign labor force become part of their nation, and they answered no. Hard no. Permanent no.
How envious are you? How envious are you of those people? Like if England, if the UK, if Western Europe had just made the same decision, like you said, they said no, it's a hard no. No, and when he went on about bloodlines and families, it's just like, kin, something that belongs. What's that noise?
You've had a super chat, Chris. That's
Okay.
background noise from me. You've had a super chat.
That's not a problem, mate. All right, I will find it. It's Anglo-Saxon. Thank you, Anglo. Cousin marriage, 4 wives, over 20 kids, claiming benefits and the right to bring the family over and get them taught how to speak English on taxpayers' money, and housed and schooled and free healthcare. There's no free healthcare. Someone's paying for it. Oh, that's you and me. That's nice. Yeah, absurd. Absolutely absurd. I said to a friend of mine, I said, why do a lot of Muslims have multiple wives? And he said, because they're crap at war and all the men are dead. That's what he said to me. He said, there's not enough women to go round. No, there's not enough men to go round. I looked into it. It's data driven. It's a data driven analysis. Nice one, Anglo. Prashikanato. And yet the UAE, etc., just went, nah. No, we want to maintain something. We want to conserve what we've got because it's working. We haven't got awful things happening to our young girls. We haven't got just the endless atrocities happening because of tribal divisions. And I mean, who's doing better at the moment, us or them? Well, it's them. That they said no, and we said yes.
So when a Syrian refugee shows up at the border looking for somewhere to start over, the system in front of them isn't built to start over. It's built to extract, to use, and eventually to send back. That is the hardware difference. But there's also a software layer, and that layer is where it really gets uncomfortable. For decades, the most cited piece of the software was the kafala system. Kafala, Arabic for sponsorship, tied every foreign worker's legal existence to a single employer. Your sponsor controlled your visa, your job, whether you could change employers, whether you could leave the country. Critics called it modern slavery. Human Rights Watch documented passport confiscations, wage theft, sexual abuse, and death tolls in the construction sector that ran into the thousands during the run-up to the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. That part is real. That part is documented. But here's where the framing usually gets stuck. Kafala has been reformed. Bahrain repealed it back in 2009. Qatar overhauled it in 2019 and 2020. The International Labor Organization formally declared the end of kafala in Qatar before the World Cup. And in June of 2025, Saudi Arabia officially announced the abolition of its kafala system as part of Vision 2030.
All sounds lovely. All sounds like, okay, that'll put an end to that. They're not idiots.
Reform package affecting around 13 million migrant workers across the kingdom. On paper, the worst version of the old system is gone in 3 out of 6 GCC states. So if kafala was the wall keeping refugees out, and the wall has come down, why hasn't anything changed? Why are the UN refugee numbers in the Gulf still measured in the hundreds and not the millions?
Literally in the hundreds. In the hundreds. It's like Hungary. It's just amazing.
Well, because kafala was never the actual wall. The actual wall is citizenship.
Was citizenship, was permanence, was the right to vote, and was the right that if your children were born there, they become British or whatever.
And citizenship has not been reformed. Not in Saudi Arabia, not in Qatar, not in the UAE, not in Kuwait, not anywhere on the peninsula.
It's a lovely bait and switch, actually. There was this sort of historic thing called kafala, which I wouldn't be surprised if they grasped themselves up and said, look, excuse me, why don't we tell them about the kafala? And someone has said, yeah, but that's hardly imposed, is it? It's like it's more like a relic of our culture. And the other bloke went, exactly, exactly. Why don't we say we're going to stop that? We're going to stop. It's like it's almost like it is slavery. Let's be honest. Let's put our hands up to it, and let's get shot of it. Abandon it, and change the rights of our immigrant workers. And when you got the World Cup round the corner, where the whole world is looking at you, I remember. I'm into football. I'm not so much into national football, international football. But if we get to the semis or the final, I'll watch it. But the whole world was watching, so Qatar was suddenly like, you're right. Everyone was saying, oh, there's people dying. 200 people have died building these stadiums and all that. It was the most expensive World Cup ever built. They had to build all the stadiums and all that. And so they said, yeah, we're putting a stop to it. And the whole world were like, wow, look what football does. Look what sport does. That they've abandoned this awful practice. So have the UAE. So blah 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 blah. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. But they got a global round of applause. Oh, well done. No, that you're under a bit of pressure there, but you've changed your immigration system. No, we've changed the appearance of our immigration system. Nothing. There was no consequences. Well, actually, there were. They got to look good by doing nothing.
A foreigner in Saudi Arabia after the 2025 reforms can switch employers more easily, leave the country without permission, and access labor courts. That's progress. But a foreign
can leave easier. That's progress. It's amazing. Hey, you can foxtrot Oscar easier. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, okay. You can change employers easier. Okay. Uh, I'm not. Oh, that evil kafala. I mean, I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago, it was literal slavery, but in the modern day, they gave up nothing. They gave up almost an illusion, but they got the props for giving up something tangible.
in Saudi Arabia in 2026 can't become Saudi. Not after 30 years, not after 50, not by birthright, not by marriage, even in most cases.
You can be in Saudi Arabia for working for 50 years. You could have 5 kids, married to a Saudi, and still not be considered Saudi. You can still be sent home whenever they want to send you home, which they do frequently. And surely that's how it should be. You know, you want to come over here and work. I didn't see the small print saying, "Oh, and you can also become British, and you can also vote, and bring your family and cousins and all that lark over, and then have it written into British law that there is a 2-tier policing system." Okay, this is all going really well.
The Emirates introduced a narrow naturalization pathway for select talent in 2021, and even that pathway has admitted only a few hundred people.
The UAE, look again. Yeah, no, we will make. No, okay, we will make some people citizens. I bet it's like brain surgeons, people who can do liver transplants, people who are on the cutting edge of medical discoveries. A few hundred. So we get that in a week in a boat, don't we? in the old Channel Shuttle. I see a photo the other week of a lifeboat, and the lifeboat graphics had been sprayed out, and someone wrote on it, "immigrant taxi." So yeah, again, this is it looks good, but in practice, in practice, this is quite clever and amazing of these people. No, we are opening up to citizenship, but in a way that benefits us. This is the real practice of we're bringing in lawyers and doctors and scientists and all that. When we say, oh, look at all those lawyers and doctors, well, the UAE are actually doing that. That's why they've only brought in a couple of hundred. How does somewhere like England? What's the population of England now? I mean, official figures probably about 70 mil, but it's probably more like 90. Let's be honest. And how many scientists and lawyers do you actually need? Whereas the UAE, a few hundred. Right. Okay. Seems to make sense.
The Qatari pathway, even narrower. The reforms touched the working conditions of foreigners, but they left the political identity of foreigners untouched. So if a Syrian refugee shows up at the Saudi border, the question isn't whether they can get a job. It's whether they can ever, under any circumstance, become part of the country. And the answer is structurally engineered to be no. That structural no is what kept the Gulf out of the refugee absorption business. But the legal architecture goes deeper than that. And the next layer is where the entire international system splits in two.
And absolutely screwed us.
Hey, if this is the kind of breakdown that you came here for, the pieces of a global story that don't get cleaned up for the evening news, the architecture under the headlines, subscribe to Fall of Nations. Because what we're about to lay out next is the part that quietly defines how every refugee crisis on Earth actually plays out.
It's worth giving this geezer a sub, actually. If you can see on the screen, that's the name of this video. Hang on, see it there now. Pause the video later or come back to this moment. You'll easily be able to find it. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a link to the channel, but I haven't yet. But I'll put it in. I'll put a link to the channel in once the stream's finished. He's got some cracking videos. They're these good deep dives. Someone said something in the chat that was important. Don't neglect the like button. That's a good one. Anglo, yeah. The Royal National, is that the Royal National? What is that? What does it stand for? Lifeboat. RNLI. The Royal National Lifeboat Institute. Well, we all know who I'm talking about. A lot of people when they see that old lady in a little sort of sailor's cap shaking that thing, and they put a couple of pound coins in it, they think they're paying for lifeboats to patrol the UK coast, and they are. But the RNLI also donates millions to countries all around the world. It's not just looking after us. It's more of our money going abroad, which is lovely. I mean, that's been kept on the quiet. I think if you were to survey a few thousand people, two of them would know that. I mean, I know I'm grabbing figures out of nowhere, but it's certainly something they don't, they don't publicise it as. I mean, it's on their website, but who goes to the RNLI website? You see the bird in the street, you put your shrapnel in the box, and that's the end of it. I had a mate who died surfing. Here's a couple of quid. It might not have happened if you had a bit more money. What? Well, that's going to Ethiopia. They're landlocked, aren't they?
And once you see it, you'll understand why the rich Muslim countries don't just refuse, they legally can't. In 1951, in the wake of World War II and the displacement of tens of millions of Europeans.
Blogs, hello Bill. Blogs brings up a very interesting thing as well. Remittances is the word used to describe money earned in a foreign country that's sent back home. Let me just have a look, because it's an interesting one, and I know because I've looked before. Let me just get a rough figure here. My chat GPT says, good to see you, Mush. Right, hang on. How much in remittances is sent the UK every year? So people coming to England, for instance, in this example, they work and work and work and work, but they don't spend a lot. Like this is one of the weird things that, they're not only are they producing, but they're also consuming. So they're part of the culture. That when you see the numbers, I'm just letting it work it out. I'm sure it's done it, but they actually send so much of that money back to their families, because in their country it's worth an absolute fortune compared to what they, it's like £7 for a cup of tea in London at the moment. £7 in Bangladesh, that's like a month's rent on your family house. Let's see what it's got here. Oh, that's lovely. It says this. So I said, how much in remittances is sent out of the UK every year? Now, the first thing we've got to think of is that's a hard number to get a grasp on, because how do you know if it's just cash in a letter? Cash in a book, in a parcel, you don't know. So I'll get this over here, see if it comes up on the screen. Hang on. Hello. We'll have a look together. Nice one, Bill. It's an important thing. I'll make that a bit bigger if I can. There you go. Right, Mush. Hang on. The best current estimate is that around 9.3 billion 9.3, we can double that, is sent out of the UK as personal remittances. People in the UK send to family and friends overseas. That's the World Bank-based estimates for 2023 cited by the Oxford's Migration Observatory. However, there's a caveat. The Migration Observatory notes that remittances are notoriously difficult to measure and that the 9.3 billion figure may substantially understate, oh really, the true amount. Using a different method, the World Bank previously estimated, when there was a different political temperature, they previously estimated remittances of around 24.5 billion. Okay, that's lovely. So and I'd say that's also nonsense as well. I'd say it's far more than that. So you go to this country, you claim money out of their financial system, and just send it to your country. And that's not just one country, obviously. That's many countries just bleeding us dry about money. I wonder if they're allowed to do that in Qatar. I wonder if there's. I wonder if you get your hands cut off if you're caught sending money over in Qatar. That's a joke, YouTube. Come on, let's not be stupid. All right, roll VT.
Europeans, the international community broke the treaty.
Whoa. That wasn't meant to happen. Let's try that again. Dun, 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 dun. Why did that do that then? Screen one, share. Oh, come on and save me. All right. Entire screen with audio. That one. Share. Yes, we got there in the end. Apologies, people. I'll take it back a little bit. I'm going to have to do it manually
Mention relating to the status of
to an
refugees.
extent. Yeah, good point, Bill. Remittances. And you know, there'll be loads of other little things like remittances that are all just eating away at the fabric of the fiscal, cultural, political, every aspect of life in Western Europe. And it doesn't seem to be getting any better. Let's be honest. I mean, I've always thought that a civil war is a long way off. But when you see things like what happened, was it Southport or Stockport? I always forget. And then you've got what recently happened in Southampton. Is it going to get to a breaking point where there's so many of these things happening, that there's so many riots going on every sort of night, that the country just sort of folds in on itself and it's like, no, we've had enough? I mean, and that's not an organised civil war. It's just, this isn't working anymore. And people are going out and they're causing problems. Blogs says trillions. Yeah, there you go. Was that just to India? I don't think it was just to India. I said how much goes out of the country, Bill. Anglo has dropped another 10 bits. Very generous, very kind of you, Anglo. Lammy says he won't take the knee for Henry Novak. What a surprise. I mean, it's because he doesn't have to. And they're top of the tree. They're top of the tree in the UK. Let's have a look. I don't know what the hell that is. Oh. If I can find it. Yeah, I've found it. Let's have a little look at it. It's only a minute long.
Was it yes or no, Mr.
Right, okay. Nice one, Anglo. We can have a little look at that now. Oh, by the way, people, I've got two. What's going on here? I've got two vapes left. I've got these 2 vapes left. I don't know if you can see me or not. I've got these 2 left. When they run out, I'm not buying another one. That's the plan. I've said it before. There's a video of me about 5 years ago saying vaping is for twats. But sometimes I have a tug on this. Not every time, but sometimes I have a tug on this. And I'm like, let me know in the chat if you've ever experienced that with a vape, like having problems breathing. I don't want to be laying in a bed and have a doctor say to me, "Yeah, you need a lung transplant," and me think, "What for? Blueberry mint, blueberry mint steam? Was that worth it?" I don't know. I mean, at least a snout, so you get in your snout. And then when I see my missus coming, sweeping the floor, having made me 2 meals today, having cleaned all the bedding, just being an amazing housewife, and demanding sexual favours from me, which I obviously had to hand over, I just looked at her and thought, you want as much time with her as possible, and that is if it's causing you problems breathing, that's not how you repay that sort of kindness. It just isn't. So I'm going to give it another go, and yeah, there you go. It would appear no one else is having trouble breathing. I can't stop. I mean, it's worse than cigarettes, because at least with a cigarette you get what you want out of it. A vape, it's almost sort of sometimes when I'm writing, if I'm thinking, I'm just sitting, it's just there, just like my mother's teat. So, I've got them on fucking these now, so that when I'm walking around the house, it's always there. It's just ridiculous. Oh, yeah, you get it. You order it on Telegram. Some incredible. I mean, I don't really smoke it anymore, but I don't really believe in addiction. It gives me something to distract myself from thinking about things I don't want to think about. When what you really need to do to give something up is face those things. I'll be all right. And then call me out when you see me vaping, like in 2 weeks' time. Well, you don't have to. Let's see what Lammy's got to say for himself. Sorry, it's a small screen. You should be able to hear it, though.
Lammy, would you take the knee for Henry Novak?
I think no, because, look, I don't think that the family are asking for symbolism.
David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, is this afternoon facing allegations of double standards after telling LBC Radio that he would not take the knee for murdered teenager Henry Novak. The Deputy Prime Minister, who has been a staunch supporter of the gesture since the murder of George Floyd in 2020, said that Mr. Novak's family did not want a symbolic gesture. However, that comment has angered the Conservatives, with Shadow Justice Secretary Nick Timothy accusing Mr. Lammy of changing his tune after criticising people who didn't want to take the knee. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer famously took the knee in his office in Parliament after the murder of Mr. Floyd in America in 2020.
Was it yes or no, Mr. Lammy? Would you take the knee for Henry Novak?
I think no, because look,
I think no, because it's an obvious symbolic showing of my position in society. Whereas your police in the street took the knee to thugs who shouted at them, and your footballers take the knee, we won't be doing that, no, because we're doing quite well at the moment. We're zooming up that status ladder in the UK like nobody's business. Why would he? I like that. I think no. Anything he said after that doesn't matter. Good call, good find. All right, we'll get back to this. It gets really interesting now, because now you get to see how governments and documentation got involved. We're nearly 3/4 through it. Here we go.
1951, in the wake of World War II and the displacement of tens of millions of Europeans, the international community wrote a treaty, the Convention Relating to the Status of Refugees, signed in Geneva, updated by a 1967 protocol. It is
The Geneva Convention, updated in 1967, okay? The final act and convention relating to the status of refugees, right? And look at we've got the symbol at the bottom there. The Geneva Convention.
the foundational document of every modern asylum system on the planet. It defines who counts as a refugee. It guarantees the right to apply for protection. It forbids signatory states from sending people back to countries where they face persecution. That is the principle of non-refoulement, and it's the legal scaffolding that makes a country an asylum country in the first place. 149 states have signed it.
And when you say, I can't go back to Syria, I was a spy, they will torture me and my family. And when you say, well, have you got any evidence of this? Well, they had no paperwork when they arrived, so you don't even know who they are. So according to the Geneva Convention, you can't chuck them out. That's why they ditch all their ID. They don't want you to know who they are, because they can call on these sorts of things. I will take this back because this next bit is brilliant. Brilliant in a just mind-blowing, this is bizarre way.
That is the principle of non-refoulement, and it's the legal scaffolding that makes a country an asylum country in the first place. 149 states have signed it. That includes every member of the European Union, the UK, Canada, the US.
149 states have signed it. I wonder who hasn't.
Australia, most of Africa, most of Latin America.
And most of Africa. Quick, let's go. Where are we going? Africa. I bet it's absolutely full of them.
Even some authoritarian states with poor track records. Now, look at the GCC. Saudi Arabia, not a signatory. The UAE, not a signatory. Qatar, nope. Kuwait, not a signatory. Bahrain, not a signatory. Oman, not a signatory.
It's incredible. They read it and they thought, hang on a minute, this will mean that any wars, and we're in quite a war-torn part of the world, our neighbours tend to be killing each other at furious rates, are going to be able to come into our country and we can't get shot of them. Nah. Nah, you can have your pen back. Whereas England, yeah, where should we sign? Of course, we'd love to. They just didn't. No one's got anything over them. They don't care. They don't, oh, you evil, horrible people. Why? We give them work, we pay them well. What have we done wrong? Well, you're not letting them become citizens of your country. Yeah, because they're not. Yeah, but you don't let them vote. Yeah, but they're not citizens. Yeah, but you should let them have a vote. Why? Well, it's nice. Well, how do you answer that? How, you can imagine in that hall when that debate was when that debate was going on and they were saying, it would appear all you lot haven't signed it. And they're like, yeah, we don't agree with it. That's why. Because, dare I say it, we're putting our states, our nations, our people first. And the Geneva Convention, that whole immigration aspect, in writing, puts the stability, financial, cultural, in every aspect, it makes it delicate. And we don't want that. We want it strong. So no, we're not signing. Yeah, brilliant. Well done. Well done. And that's why they're thriving.
Not one of the 6 oil monarchies on the Arabian Peninsula has signed the foundational legal document of international refugee protection. Not in the 70-plus years since it was drafted. Not after the Iran-Iraq War. Not after the Gulf War. Not after the Syrian Civil War. Not after Yemen. Not after
And the funny thing about this geezer saying not after this war, not after this war, and these are all pretty much bordering nations. That those countries that didn't sign it, they won't be looking at all these examples and thinking, the whole world must be thinking, why aren't we taking them more? No, they'll be thinking, yeah, that's why we didn't sign them. This isn't making us look bad. This is proof of why we made the right choice.
After Iraq, not after Sudan, not after any of it. Tens of millions of people have been displaced from Muslim-majority countries since 1951. The legal door that would have made the GCC their natural sanctuary has never opened. Not once, not for a single conflict, not for a single decade. And it isn't just symbolic. Without signing the convention, these states have no domestic asylum law to fall back on. There's no legal status called refugee inside Saudi Arabia. There's no protected category, no work permit that you can earn by fleeing persecution. Qatar passed law number 11 of 2018, which made it the first and only Gulf state with a domestic political asylum statute. Even then, it's narrow, applied case by case, and barely used. The UN Refugee Agency's own page for Saudi Arabia says it plainly. Registering as a refugee with the UN gives you no special status or privileges inside the kingdom, because the kingdom does not recognize the framework.
We're not playing ball, so you can register with that nonsense, but we haven't. So unlucky.
Again, the kingdom does not recognize the framework. The UN's own refugee agency tells refugees in Saudi Arabia that being a refugee means nothing there because the country.
Its own documents, imagine like racking up and getting it. You're queuing up for weeks or whatever, and you get it, and you think, "Oh right, let's see what free stuff we're gonna get." Nah. The last page is a bus ticket, on perforations to take you home. You have to sort of rip it out and wave it in the air, and a bus will take you where you come from.
Was never going to let it mean anything.
And
that's the wall.
What I really like about it is that it only regardless of mad orthodox leftists screaming at all this sort of stuff, it comes down to one very simple thing. I said it earlier, but it bears repeating. They want to put their people first. And this kind of thing, this kind of refugee lark, ends up with your people second, third, fourth. You just slowly go down that ladder as your countries, nations that are prosperous and do well, their birth rates go down. In Cambodia, in the provinces, not in the cities, but in the provinces, the average children of a 23-year-old is something like 5. They're knocking them out, and they knock them out. Their parents, it was about 10. When I talk to really old Cambodians who were, quite young during the communist massacre that happened here, they say I lost 8 of my siblings or whatever. And the reason they have loads of kids is the reasons people have had loads of kids for eternity. Is because some are going to die, they're going to die at birth or disease or whatever. Some are going to be female, which is all right. There's money there, and it is about money. And some are going to be male, and they're going to be able to look after you when you're older. But in a prosperous nation, you don't need to have 10 kids. You don't need to be an industrial child-making machine, which is fine. Until you start bringing in refugees, because then that whole system kind of collapses, because this side of that, the refugee side of it, is still having loads of kids, and they outbirth you. It's as simple as that. They outbirth you. Now I hear a lot on the news and other leftist organisations that second and third generation immigrants, they tend to go down to 1 or 2 kids. But 2 generations is a hell of a lot of people if you're having 5, 6 kids per daughter. Yeah, so going back to my original point, all these nations and states and Emirates have done is said, no, we're putting our people first. We've looked into this. We've projected numbers into the future, and we want to maintain our own people as the top class of citizen in our nation state, and that's seen as a bad thing. Now, when you don't do that, it's not just that you get a little switch around. No, you get well, you know what you get. You get what's been going on in Western Europe for the last 10, 15 years, and it's getting worse all the time.
Not kafala, not culture, not religion, a document never signed. And the obvious next question is why? Why would 6 wealthy, religiously aligned, geographically adjacent states refuse for 7 decades to sign a document that would let them act as a regional refuge for their own civilizational neighbors? The answer is regime survival. Refugees aren't workers. That's the first thing the Gulf monarchies understood, and the rest of the world keeps forgetting. A Filipino domestic worker comes to Doha to
So this is the difference between a refugee and an immigrant.
send money home. Her loyalty is to a paycheck, a contract, and a return ticket. She has no political stake in the country. She is, by design, controllable. A Syrian refugee, that's something different. They didn't come for work. They came because their country broke. They carry political networks, religious organizations, war trauma, ideological commitments, sometimes weapons training, sometimes movement experience. They have less to lose. They were not...
Look at that. Look at those aspects of the personalities. You've got war trauma, families killed, the most horrific things you've seen. I've seen that super chat. I'll get there in a minute. Nice one. You've seen the most hideous things. War must be one of the most awful things to live through. But you've also got tribal tensions that go back thousands of years. And you've got people who've been trained and know how to use, weapons in a way that, British kids can barely use a pea shooter. And you're importing all that trauma, all that war training, and all those tribal, what's the word I'm looking for, Packer?
In-group?
No.
Got a super chat.
People know what I'm talking about anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if someone else would put it in the chat by now. Oh, I can't find it. Arglo dropped 20 squids in. Hoyt to that. Nice one, son. Watcher Chris. News recently has been so depressing, I barely want to comment on it. So I'll just say that if you're having a call-in the future, I'd love to come on and have a natter about Infinite Jest. Awesome book. Yeah, amazing. Love to. I absolutely love to. When you go to my novel on Amazon, it occasionally comes up. People who bought this book also bought, and it's Infinite Jest. So I'm like, well, I'm keeping good company. I can't believe you've obviously finished it. Yeah, what a piece of writing. I think the best novel of the 21st century, even though, we're not even halfway through it, but you're going to have to go some to beat that. Yeah, fair play. I'll try and sort something out, Arklow. I'll try and sort something out. Thanks for that donation, Machano Capriccionata Canati. Yeah, that'll be interesting. We'll get someone else on who started it and couldn't hack it, and that might be an interesting conversation. I'll take this back a bit because I
raised inside the patronage.
Did talk a lot. Oh, hang on, not that far back.
Work. They came because their country broke. They carry political networks, religious organizations, war trauma, ideological commitments, sometimes weapons training, sometimes movement experience. They have less to lose. They were not raised inside the patronage system. They don't owe loyalty to any local sheikh or emir. For an authoritarian monarchy that maintains power through tribal balance, family hierarchy, and tightly managed religious authority, well, that profile is not a guest. That's a vector. And the Gulf monarchies remember the Arab Spring. Between 2010 and 2012, popular uprisings shook Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Yemen, and Bahrain. Order is not eternal. The lesson was filed away in every royal court on the peninsula, and the policy implication was clear. You don't import a population that's already proven that it knows how to topple a government, especially when that population shares the language.
There you go. You look at the features, you look at the aspects, and who are you bringing in? Well, we know we're bringing in to an extent, like people from Afghanistan. They were war people. They were warring people. Oh, come at Dartford for the weekend. A little straightener outside the back of the Dog and Duck. It's out his massive sword and takes your head off. You're like, come on, son. Oops, that's cultures colliding.
Faith and religious vocabulary that makes the mobilization easier inside your own borders. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the rest of the GCC didn't refuse refugees out of selfishness. They refused them out of a cold-eyed calculation that allowing in millions of war-traumatized, politicized Arabs would create a destabilization risk that those regimes are not equipped to absorb. You can call it cynical, you can even call it cruel, but it's coherent. And from the perspective of a royal family that spent a century engineering.
And again, it puts your people first. It puts your people first. It protects your people. What is the job of the state? What is the job of the state? It's to look after the people. The people give it far too much of the money it's worked hard for, and it looks after them. It provides structure. It provides a way of that culture operating where even though we work as individuals, we can pull money and do amazing things with it. We can organise a military and all of that sort of thing. When you're bringing in war-traumatized, warring people with 1,000 years tribal vendettas against each other, thanks Bill for that work. It's necessarily going to cause massive problems. And if you've been working on setting up your nation for your people, that's the last thing you want. And England went, come in, come over here. Insanity.
Its own permanence, it's non-negotiable. So if the Gulf was never going to absorb the wave, who was? Europe. Not because Europe wanted to, not because Europeans on aggregate voted for it, but because Europe's system was built to.
We signed the documents. That's what happened. And, it was funny, actually. 42, I think it was 42, was talking about, I'm not getting at 42 here, but when Mark was on, I had Mark Collette on the other week, and we were talking about the population never being asked if we wanted all these people. And, PA done that big poll thing where they asked people about we were not being asked. And, every government for the last 30 years has said they will cut immigration, and every government has lied. Every single one. Why? Because they're tied to all these documents they've signed since the end of the Second World War. That's why we've had to bring them in. And it's not as simple as saying, well, you don't have to. I mean, it is that simple in one respect. But this is the problem. Well, one of the many problems with globalism, when you're part of bigger international or multinational conglomerations, like even just the UN, when you start saying, actually, we're going to go back on what we said then, well, that's when they start that's when sanctions start happening. That's when you can't get this. That's when you can't get that. That's when these people stop trading with you. That's when they put pressure on other countries to stop trading with you. And it's hard enough maintaining an economy anyway. But when you've got pressure being put on loads of other nations to not trade with you or increase tariffs with you, well, you're screwed either way. And that's why you had the likes of Merkel. That's why you had the likes. Well, it's a bit different with Labour because we know they wanted to rub the right's nose in diversity or whatever it was. There was certainly a large element of the left that did want them in, but they had the paperwork to fall back on. The population, not so much.
Post-1945 Reconstruction left every European state with three things at once: a massive labor shortage, a moral debt that needed paying, to the survivors of fascism, to the displaced.
Yeah, when I first watched this, I kind of got this wrong. I don't think he's saying that this is true. I think what he's saying is this is what was said. This is how it was sold. I'm not buying that moral debt for a minute. We owed a moral debt to no one, absolutely no one. But this was like how it was sold. Well, you done this, you done this, you done this. So it's time you put your hands in your pocket. It's time you put your hand in your pocket and helped out a little bit. Like fascism. What's England's moral debt to fascism? So yeah, I mean you can read that however you want, but I think that's what he's getting at, because otherwise it would be politically out of line with everything else he said in this video.
Construction left every European state with three things at once: a massive labor shortage, a moral debt that needed paying, to the survivors of fascism, to the displaced, to the colonized, and a brand new welfare apparatus designed to absorb people from the inside. Add the European Convention on Human Rights in 1950. Add the Refugee Convention in 1951. Add the European Union's Common European Asylum System.
Look at this. Just keep going. Just keep getting it in paper. Keep getting it in writing. Keep getting those signatures. Just don't stop. So that when anyone tries to fight it, well, unfortunately, you sign those papers, and you might be able to do some. A new government might be able to do something with some kind of like legal attack on it. Oh, well, all right. Well, that's one out of the way. Then you've got the other six because they keep maintaining it.
Decades later, add the Schengen Zone. Add citizenship laws that ratcheted toward birthright nationality across most of Western.
I mean, birthright nationality is the biggest con in history. I just can't get my head around it. I just cannot get my head around birthright nationality. I know it's a cliche, but for good reason. Imagine I moved to China and had kids. They're not Chinese, are they? Who's ever buying that? It's just ridiculous.
In Europe, every layer of that architecture made it harder for a European state to refuse an asylum seeker. Not impossible, but harder.
Even though they've passed through 20 safe places, and even though in the same literature, in the very same documents it says first safe nation, we still have to put up with them. We still have to take them when they've gone against the rules. No, you should have parked up in fucking Serbia or something.
So when the Syrian war broke in 2011 and the Iraq insurgency rolled on and Afghanistan collapsed and the African Sahel deteriorated.
I mean, look at all that in such a short space of time. They should have told us then to start digging.
Now, these people that were running from those crises didn't choose Europe out of love. They chose Europe because Europe was the only continent where the legal architecture said, yes, you can apply, and we have to listen.
And we not only do we have to listen, we have to take you, we have to turn you into a citizen, we have to pay for you to learn how to speak the language, and you can vote. And that's all documented as well. That's why they came to Europe. permanence. They didn't come here to escape a war. They did, but not with any intention of going back. Because why would you? I mean, they prefer it here. We've had it pretty cush since the Second World War. I mean, we had the Falklands, and rest in peace anyone who died there. But it's been a pretty cush place to live, especially compared to where most of these people come from. They had no intention of leaving. And if you think they didn't have experts going through all those documents like with a fine-tooth comb, like, right, no, you're going to be all right. You won't have to come back. You'll be able to take your family over after a year or so. They went, sweet, we're off.
That's the meaning of the word must in the title of this video. It's not moral, it's not generous, but it's structural. The system was built to receive, and the system has received. Every German government since the 1950s, every Swedish parliament since the war, every French interior minister, every Dutch coalition, they could shout, posture, tighten the budget, raise the border fences, but they couldn't repeal the convention. They couldn't unsign Geneva. They couldn't dismantle the architecture without dismantling the post-war European project itself. Since the fall of the Assad regime in December of 2024, the math has shifted. The MERS coalition that took office in Berlin in May of 2025 has tightened German policy hard. Asylum applications fell roughly in half over 2025. Sweden is offering up to 350,000 kroner, almost 31,000 euros, to encourage voluntary return.
Trying to send people home by giving them 30 bags of sand. It's amazing, you know. And I tell you what, they'll probably take it and come back. And you can't turn them down. Nowhere in the Geneva Convention. Come back as someone else. Just come back. And all you've managed to do is take 30 grand home. Hang on, I'll leave it to the end. We're nearly there.
The political backlash that started in Hungary and Poland a decade earlier has now reached the heart of the EU. But the underlying architecture is still there. The convention is still signed. The asylum directive is still binding. The settlement model is still the model. The political mood can swing. The legal plumbing doesn't. And as long as the plumbing points one direction, the water will keep flowing the same way, even when politicians are trying to turn off the tap. So the next time someone asks why Europe is dealing with a refugee crisis that its neighbors aren't, remember this. It isn't about religion or cruelty. It's not about who's good and who's bad. It's about which countries built systems that let strangers stay and which countries built systems that don't. The Gulf decided 7 decades ago what kind of country it wanted to be. Europe decided to. The bills are now coming due for both. So here's a question worth asking in the comments. Was Europe ever going to be able to say no? Or did the system that its own founders built make refusal structurally impossible?
It's a fantastic video. It really is. Like I say, I'll put a link to the channel in here, but you won't be able to see it until the video's uploaded and all that. Yeah, we're structurally and legally obliged to just keep letting them come and them stay here. It's a weird take, isn't it? Have you heard a lot of that? Have you heard any of that before, Packer?
No,
I mean,
only vaguely that we're tied by, you know, legal documents that we have to do it. But you just think, well,
Yeah.
just untie yourself, don't do it. We're out of Europe, but you can't because, you know, we're still tied to them, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's,
I heard that the Guernsey or Jersey or both of them runs off French power. The French mainland, so that if we don't do what France is, they'll just turn the power off to 2 of the richest islands off the coast.
I have no idea. I mean, it would make more sense. I'm sure they're charging them. Hello, Spanish chicken. How are you, son? Good to see thee. Well, how long have we done? Hour and 45 minutes. That's me, people. I'm shattered. Hello to anyone here who's new. You can find me on Substack, link in the description. If you want to try my latest novel, link in the description. 4.8 stars out of 5, 65 reviews, going lovely. top 100 in literary fiction, number 1 in new releases in America. Lovely. Packer, we'll have a little debriefing. I'll let you go, son. I'll talk to you in a minute if you're up for it. Show Packer some love in the chat, people. Tell her, mate. I'll see you in a minute. So there you go. I will be trying to do more streams. For people who don't know, I had a bit of organ failure. I know it's not funny, but it was all my own doing. I'm not that old, but I just didn't let myself rest when I got back, and I should have done so. It's done me up a bit. So there will be more of this. I've got a few other things to tell you also about the old Substack, but I'll leave that for another time. I'll get a little bit of music up on the screen. I will play us out with. Oh, I know what I'll do. I know what I'll go with. Excuse me. Oh, I had some lovely food today. I don't know what it was. I don't even know what it was made of. Let me just have a look over here. No, we're all good over there. Bosh over there. Like the video, can you, people? There's more chance of YouTube totally ignoring it and not sending it to any other people. If you're not subscribed, about 30% of the people who watch my channel aren't subscribed. Just do it, helps out. Please. Here's some music. I only really play music so that you might have a second thought of donating, but it is a cracking tune, and most of the OG scrubs will absolutely love it. So I will see you soon. Look after yourselves. And oh no, that's not time for that yet, is it? It's the music first. Oh, power naps. Won't be doing that again. Here we go. Let's try a bit of this. Cinema screen.
All the world loves a lover. All the girls in every land are meant to know. The joy of loving is to live in the world of man love. There's someone who's waiting for you. Soon the world will be yours for a toy. Music starts to play, night will turn to day. Darkness disappears when the one you love is near. You're in man love. All the world loves the lover. All the girls in every land are meant to know. Joy of loving is to live in the world of man love. There's a place that is waiting for you, a world where the best in life is free, where time is always spring, happiness is king. The dreams you dream come true when the one you love loves you. You're in man love.
It would appear that Ragnar Ironspear, if that is his real name, is streaming after this. I'm not sure, but someone said see you at Rag. Spanish Chicken said see you at Rag. So if you want to watch that, get over there and enjoy. Nice one, Picard. Thank you. I just see that come through.
All the world loves a lover. All the girls in every land are meant to know. Joy of loving is to live in the world of man love.
Thank you, Mr. Vols. Yeah, I done myself a damage. I can't blame anyone except for myself. It didn't go as planned. But yeah, that's very kind of you. Someone on one of the comments on Bo's stream said, "Why is he talking at half speed?" I mean, it's an easy solution. Just turn it up to double speed. There you go. I see you, Rags. I see you. So you're streaming, are you? At 7 o'clock, apparently, UK time, people. So look out for that if you want to get over there. And there you go. I'll talk to you all soon. I'll try and get one done midweek, and then the Sunday one will be a regular. You notice this isn't as late as I used to. I'm trying to get a little bit more sleep. I've got a novel to finish and get out before November, the one I've been working on 10 years. I've got to say, it's fucking brilliant, man. But if you haven't read Love in the Time and Nudie Mags, it's only like 14 quid or something. Give it a go. About a kid who grew up in 1986. Who could it be? Look after yourselves. Lots of love. Ta-ta. Oit.